Juke, Sparky Melody, you're in tune to Judith Jacobs.
True Identity, Roots Reggae Rocking with Judith Jacob. Your thing set off.
And that is me back online with my guest, Shane Bowers. Can you hear me, Shane?
I can, yes.
Oh, fantastic. So, Shane, we're going to go into a bit in a moment, but I'm going to ask you the first question I ask everybody, and that is, who would you give credit to for making you the person that you are? It could be a friend, it could be a parent, it could be a teacher. But whoever it is, their full name, and why would you give them credit?
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I have to give ultimate credit for myself and everything that has happened to God Almighty, who has blessed me and who has guided me from the beginning up until this point.
Okay, fantastic. So just give me a bit of background. Have you got any siblings?
Yeah, I've got one younger brother.
So just the two of you?
Yes, so just me and my brother. My brother is a registered football agent.
Oh.
And he looks after a number of football players in the English Football League.
I like that. And what about your school? Where did you go? What area?
Okay, so my secondary education took place at the John Loughborough School.
I know the John Loughborough School.
Yeah. So I was a student at the John Loughborough School where I undertook all of my public examination. It
doesn't exist anymore, does it?
No, unfortunately, it closed down a number of years ago. But it was a very popular black school.
It was
in Tottenham. Yeah, and had a very good academic record.
Yeah, I agree. And what were your ambitions when you were at school?
And when I was younger, I wanted to be a boxer.
Okay.
Initially. And then I also had ambitions about perhaps going into the legal field, perhaps, one day.
Yeah. So did you go to uni?
I did, yes.
And what was it that you were studying there?
So I went to the Queen Mary in Westfield College, and I studied law and politics.
Oh, well, okay, that was getting you towards your goal that you had in your mind. Mm-hmm. So, having said that, this is going to be... So, you have recently become the CEO of Britain's first black-owned community bank, which is the Pentecostal Community Bank, PCB. So, okay, so there was you wanting to be a lawyer and all this stuff. How did this happen? How did you become... What was your involvement? Tell us the story of this.
Okay, so I guess it was God working in my life, and I kind of fell into this position because initially, once I graduated from university, I took some entrance exams to go into the British civil service, and whilst I passed the entrance, I had to wait.
Oh, we keep breaking that. Sorry, say it again. When you were, let's just say that a little bit again. We lost you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So after I graduated from university, I undertook some entrance exams to go into the British civil service. And whilst I was waiting for them to find me a work placement, I had nothing to do for several months. I was out of work. And so the founder of what was then the Pentecostal Credit Union, Reverend Carmel Jones, invited me to come in to do some work experience until that job placement materialized.
Right.
But it was over a year I was actually waiting for a placement. And whilst I was doing the work experience at the credit union, I'd actually built up, some real affection for the business and everything that was happening there. So that when the placement actually arrived, I turned it down, and I was then offered a trainee manager's position at the credit union, which I took.
Mm-mm. That was interesting, wasn't it? Because it took a year, and you would have been hanging around doing very little. And there you were, sort of learning a trade that wasn't part of the thing, but it was working for you. So you were training, but how do you become from doing your training thing to being the CEO?
Okay, so really, I guess the Pentecostal Credit Union was founded in 1979 by Reverend Jones and 16 Christian friends. But then by the time I'd come around, I was perhaps one of the more younger people involved in.
Not perhaps, definitely.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess I was the youngest person really involved in the management of the business at that time. and there was no obvious successor, I guess, for the senior management team at the time. And the business expressed a desire to invest their time and resources in me in order to prepare me, for a time when I might be able to, become, a senior manager within the business. So, during that time, I was simply learning the ropes,
Right.
learning, how the business was run, the governance structures, and everything else.
When you, a bit of a background, because you've come in, but it was set up. I'm trying to let the listeners understand, because we've called it the Pentecostal Community Bank. So when it started, it was like 44 years ago, wasn't it?
Yes, it started in 1980.
Right. So when it started, why did it start? Do you know why it started, and how did people access it?
Yeah. So I guess the Pentecostal Credit Union is I think a real Windrush success story, really, because the history of the credit union is steeped in the Windrush or the post-war experience of the African and Caribbean community in Britain. So just to give a little bit of a background, the credit union, as I said, was started by Reverend Jones in 1980.
Yeah.
But the beginning of the credit union started much earlier than that, really, because when Reverend Jones arrived from Jamaica in 1955 in Britain, he was a member of the Church of England, like many of our fathers and grandfathers were at the time. But when he arrived in London, he attended a local Church of England church service in Clapham, and he attended for 3 Sundays. But on the 4th Sunday of attending the service, the vicar approached him after the service, thanked him for coming, but then said that a number of the parishioners were quite uncomfortable with a black person in their midst and asked him not to come back.
Lovely.
No, yeah. Now that was a fairly common experience
Yes, it
that
was.
many of our people had. But the reason why it's significant is because he left that Church of England service and then attended a local Pentecostal church worship group that was happening with some local friends. And many of these Pentecostal church worship services were springing up around London in people's front rooms or local community centres, because many of our people were not being welcomed by the established church. So many of these fledgling Pentecostal church groups during the late 50s and 60s were growing to the point where they could no longer be held in people's front rooms,
Yes.
or even in local community centres. Many of these fledgling groups were now looking for places of worship to purchase, to buy outright. But the problem was, when they approached the mainstream banks, the answer was no. They couldn't access affordable finance to buy places of worship. And this financial exclusion wasn't just affecting Pentecostal ministries. It was also affecting individuals who were also finding it difficult to get mortgages and finance from mainstream banks. And many of our people were using the old partner system in order to overcome that financial hurdle. But it was a real issue. And so Reverend Jones saw an advert in the Sun newspaper in September 1979 about how to start a credit union. And this was following new legislation that had been introduced by the Labour government about how to start credit unions as a form of community finance. So he saw this advert and thought it would be a great idea if the Pentecostal church was able to take advantage of setting up such a scheme in order to, as a means of being able to A, buy their own buildings, but also for their parishioners to get access to finance, to get mortgages and loans.
Brilliant.
So he did that, and the credit union was then registered in 1980, and that's pretty much how it started.
Isn't that amazing? Is he still alive?
No, unfortunately he passed away last July.
I hope he was given his proper props. This is quite amazing that man done that. Really is amazing. So he set up what was a community thing, and now you're a community bank. How did that transfer? Was that difficult? What was do you know how would that happen?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, when Reverend Jones first started the credit union in 1980, it came with some fanfare, because for the first time there was a financial institution that was going to cater to the needs of both the Pentecostal faith community, but also the black community, who were having difficult difficulty accessing finance. And the credit union grew rapidly, so that it started initially in Reverend Jones's front room in Balham in South London. But by 1983, the business was growing so rapidly that it could no longer operate from his front room. And so Reverend Jones approached the bishop. He was a member of the Church of God in Christ, a large Pentecostal church still in operation today, the late Bishop Bell, for permission to start the credit union or use the office space at the Fenton Road Church in Vauxhall, so that people could access the services from 1983. And the credit union continued to grow to the point where then it was too big to operate from the local church space at Fenton Road. And then the credit union bought two old house buildings in Aldridge Road in Balham, converted them into an office, and then used that as its headquarters from 1988 onwards, which is now still our headquarters to this day. And the credit union grew rapidly each and every year, so that by the mid-1990s, it was now one of the largest credit unions in the United Kingdom.
Whoa!
And yeah, to the point now where we've grown to the point where we are today, where actually we're offering products and services more akin within the banking industry than within the credit union space. And so the board took a decision in 2021 to migrate ourselves away from the credit union space, more into the community banking arena, because we are better identified as a bank, but also because the products and services we offer are more akin within the banking industry. And so it was decided really to start the transition from then.
And can anybody come, and I say anybody, African Caribbean, can anybody access your bank and approach you for a loan?
Yes, so we offer a number of services, not just loans, but also deposit account services and
fantastic.
Yeah. So first of all, our products and services are available to the entire community.
Yes.
Of any ethnicity or any religion. The criteria for being able to open an account is a person does have to demonstrate an affiliation or an association to a Pentecostal church in Great Britain. So a person doesn't have to be a signed up member of a Pentecostal church. They don't have to regularly attend a Pentecostal church, but they do have to demonstrate that they have either an association or that they have visited a Pentecostal church recently, and that is a legal requirement in order to us to be able to satisfy that we are a community organisation servicing the needs of the Pentecostal faith community. So if you've been to a Pentecostal church for a wedding, a funeral, a baptism, even, then you are eligible to open an account. And we've tried to make the membership or constituent criteria as loose as possible in order to be able to attract as many members from our community as possible. And as you know, many of our people may not go to church regularly, but we've all been, at some point, for a service. So
yes.
Most of us should, be able to meet the qualification criteria.
I'm glad you put it like that, because it's quite a broad spectrum. It's not very tight, so that it does make it more accessible to more people. But, you've attended a wedding, so you're able to access. And what do you offer? Mortgages? What else do you I'm assuming mortgages. What else would you...
So we offer a variety of different services, deposit accounts for individuals, for children, and for corporates, charities, businesses, and loan products as well for individuals and corporate bodies.
And as the recently appointed CEO, what is your personal future vision? Because you're going to be driving it, your vision for the future of the PCB.
Okay, so I want this institution, for our community to embrace this institution because it's fantastic, because it offers real engagement and real services for our community. And we want to drive it so that it becomes the financial partner of choice for our communities, because what we found during our last 44 years of operating is that we come off worse when it comes to accessing financial services. So whilst there may not be the same level of financial exclusion that there may have been when Reverend Jones first started the community bank, we tend to find higher rate of refusal when our people approach mainstream banks for startup loans to start businesses. And even when we are accepted for lending services, we tend to pay a higher premium or higher interest rate for those services. And for that reason, I want this institution to grow and to become accessible to the community at large so that we become real stakeholders in this society.
And more branches?
Possibly. One thing is that, and I say that, I qualify that by saying that our institution is fully accessible online via our website and our mobile app. So, you know, we're technically open 24 hours a day. You can get access to your money at any time, put money in, take it out, apply for loans, etc., etc. And we are nationwide through that medium.
Well, that means you don't need actual buildings, because there's so many banks now that are just online. So yes, because
exactly,
yeah,
precisely. But we do have, offices are available. You know, the public can access our offices to speak to somebody or to take advantage of the services in Balham, in South London. So we are there, you know, because we also recognise that there are a number of people who, for whatever reason, are either unable or uncomfortable with using online services.
And there are a few.
Yes. So part of our business proposition is that we're not just an online bank, and if you're not online, then you go elsewhere. So people can access the service in person at our branch in Balham. And at present, there isn't any plans to open any further branches, but of course that may change if in certain locations in Great Britain there is significant demand for it.
Yes. So if I was to go online and say I want to open an account, how would the question come up in the opening of the account online about if I've attended a church or any of that?
Yes. So there is only one question pertaining to church attendance or affiliation, and on the application form it will ask prospective members to name the Pentecostal church that they either attend, are a member of, or have visited. So you just need to have the name of the church that applies to. That will be the only question that you will be asked in relation to that matter.
And savings accounts. Have you got savings accounts?
Yes. So there are savings accounts available for young people from a day old up until they're aged 18.
Fantastic.
There are deposit accounts for individuals, for joint account holders, and, as I said, for business and corporates and charities.
Beautiful. And what's your interest rate at the moment?
So last year, what we pay is not interest. It's actually a dividend or share of the profit.
Because of how you're set up.
Yes, exactly. So because the community bank pays a share of the profit as opposed to interest to its members, what we paid last year was a tax-free dividend to all members of 1%.
Oh, you're making me want to go online whilst I'm talking to you. So this sounds absolutely amazing. Before you leave, would you like to leave anything with our listeners?
Okay, so what I would say, I would invite everybody who is listening to have a look at our website, to have a look at that, or to have a look at our YouTube page, because we've got a number of videos uploaded, not just about the Pentecostal Community Bank, because we're more than a bank. We're a financial institution that actually undertakes a number of community initiatives, supporting a number of charities, churches, and other businesses to help them to achieve their goals. So you can check out our YouTube page, or to follow us on the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, etc., etc.
And sorry, what if they're following you? What would they put in? Pentecostal Community Bank? What would they?
Yes, just type in Pentecostal Community Bank on any of those platforms,
right? And
you'll be able to find out information about what we are. We're not, although we have launched the community bank in September, we've actually been in operation for 44 years. Yeah. So there is a long track record of success and attainment during that time. We are fully regulated, just like any other bank or financial institution in Great Britain. So we're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulatory Authority, who are the same institutions that regulate the banks and building societies in the United Kingdom. All deposits are insured up to the first £85,000 in the Pentecostal Community Bank, just as they are in any other mainstream bank, because we're members of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. And we are also members of the Financial Ombudsman Service. So if a person has a dispute which they can't resolve with us, they do have recourse to the Financial Ombudsman, just as they would in the bank. So exactly the same safeguards are available in this institution as they are with any other bank.
You know, I think that's really important what you've just said, because I know we've got some very skeptical people in our community. And it's good that you've just outlined, babe, if you go to anybody, this is the same things you will be facing. We have got all the coverage that every other bank has. And I think that's important that people hear it. Yeah. So thank you very much for saying that, you know. Oh, this is very exciting. I will be going online. Put my some money. But thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Shane. And I really look forward to having you again another stage, just to tell us where we are now and how it's moving. Would that be okay?
That'll be perfect. Thank you very much for having me on.